I've always really resented that statement
I
of
agree.
it being weak to seek therapy. You're weak if you need help. I believe the exact opposite to be true.
Yeah,
I think it
totally.
takes immense strength to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you too much to let you brave this alone.
Hey y'all, I'm Lillian Reese Brown, and welcome to Making Meaning, a podcast by the Cohere Collective, here to help guide you along your path to make meaning in a way that makes sense for you. And this week, I am joined by the absolutely lovely Lydia Shock. Lydia and I first connected at Podcast Movement, a podcast convention that this past year was hosted in Dallas, Texas, right down the street from me. And meeting Lydia has to be one of the most prosperous and expansive things that came out of this convention for me. Since connecting, a really beautiful friendship has blossomed between us, and every time we chat or connect, we just learn all of the different things that we have in common and the ways that our paths mirror each other so much. And so immediately I wanted to invite Lydia on and chat a little bit more about her story. She is extremely passionate about mental health advocacy and ending the stigma. These are things that we should be talking about. And all of us have a relationship with our mental health. And even if you feel like you have never struggled with your mental health a day in your life, you have experienced stress before. You've experienced fear. You've experienced grief, even in little ways. And all of those things are the uniting thread of what it means to be a human being, of what it means to experience life. And if we're not talking about those things, we're missing out on all of the really good, juicy bits that we can connect to one another on. So this conversation is really near and dear to my heart. Not only do we touch on mental health, which of course is a really big part of my story, but we dive into feminism and the intersection between spirituality and activism and wellness, and how all of these things are integral to the work of, yes, wellness and self-development and becoming your not highest, you'll know I don't like saying that, wholest self, but also becoming your most purposeful and fulfilled self, not just because you should, but for you, on your terms, based on what you want and your values. Lydia also has her own podcast called Someone Should Know that centers around mental health, and she's had some really powerful episodes. One of the things we have in common is that we both have PCOS, and she's talked about that and her relationship with women's health and how that impacts mental health. She's also had an episode on energy vampires that I found really, really compelling. So there's a wealth of information over on the Someone Should Know podcast. It will be linked down below for you to go check out, and I highly recommend you do. Please go support Lydia. Quick content warning, in this episode we do discuss self-harm and suicide briefly, so I will put a timestamp in the description box down below so you can watch or listen with care. As always, please take care of yourself as you make meaning. That is all I have for you, so as always, let's take a deep breath. And get started. Well, Lydia, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to be with me. I've been so looking forward to our conversation, and I'm excited to be sharing this space with you.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm really excited to be here with you.
Absolutely. Well, my first question that I always ask to try and set a nice, expansive tone for our conversation is, what is one thing that you're grateful for?
Oh, this is such a great question, and I could take our full 2 hours talking about what I'm grateful for, but
Hey,
of
don't threaten me
course
with a good
yeah,
time.
right, that's right. But definitely the top of the list has to be my family and my tribe. I have an amazing support system, and we are tribal creatures at the end of the day, and that is rooted in our DNA, and so my tribe is super important to me, and I am grateful for them every single day. So first and foremost, my people. Shout
I
out to
love
them.
that. Yeah, absolutely. We are social creatures and we can't, there's too
Yes.
many mistakes to be made in this life to make them all on your own. It's like you have to be learning from other people. And
Yes.
I love that. I've also been thinking a lot about family and chosen family too and what that means. And I love that. It's also funny how so many guests will say, I know this is cliche, but family, or I know this is
Yeah.
cliche, but health. And I'm like, they're cliches for a reason. They are the
So
things we should
true.
all be grateful for. So
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
they will carry you through your darkest of days and they will cheer you on your brightest of days. So, yeah, having your people chosen or given or a mixture of the two, just finding your people and never letting them go is one of my biggest
Yeah.
pieces of advice that I always love to give.
Yeah. Well, my second question to really break our conversation open is, what is your story? I know that's a big question, but whatever you feel called to share in this moment is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's a kind of a loaded question, right? It's like
Yes, it
which
is.
version of Lydia
Right,
should we
right.
talk about today? Which I think is what's so fun about that question is because, we do live so many lives in this life that we're given. And that's how I feel. I'm only 28, but I feel like I've, lived a many a lives in those 28 years. So to keep it kind of, we know each other through podcasting. And so to kind of explore that journey and how I got there, growing up, I struggled a bit growing up. I struggled with, you know, being a little bit of an outcast, like always so much, like so sure of myself. And everybody else was like, maybe not. It's maybe a little too much. It's maybe a little too much, right? I was a theater kid growing up. So I was always a lot. And I was always told that, like, you're a lot. It's too much. Tone it down. And I think because of that, I sometimes had a hard time mingling with peers and, kind of assimilating into school and the kind of social norms, so to speak. And so, because of that, kind of come high school era, I was really low self confidence. I doubted myself a lot. And it led me down a dark journey. In that journey, I explored depression. I struggled with suicidal ideation and suicidal planning. And it was really dark. It was dark days for me. I was about 15, 16 at that time. And it was really through the darkness that I was able to find the light as is true for so many of us that have seen those dark days. It is really going through those that allows you to see that light at the end of the tunnel. And so once I started to go to therapy and seek help and find self confidence and internal self worth and that internal rhythm and sense of self, I really became sure of who I was. And I started to come out of that depression. I didn't struggle with suicidal thoughts anymore. And it definitely wasn't I went to therapy and I started a podcast.
Right.
It was 10 years, right? It was years and years of me discovering this about myself and that I really enjoyed these conversations around mental health. And I saw the importance in us talking about real tools that we can use to help other people and to help save them from themselves. And, as we just talked about that kind of tribal mentality, I really learned that I love helping people in that space. And I want you to see the light because there is a light. And everybody's journey to that light looks a little differently, but there is a light for you. And I want to help you find that. And so through that, my podcast, Someone Should Know, was born. And it really exists just to spark conversations around mental health and mental strength and emotional resilience, and really just sharing stories and tools and resources that have helped me find my own rhythm and my own self worth. So, yeah.
I love that. One, thank you so much for sharing. I know that it it's easy to ask the question and think about it. It's different to share it, and you relive a lot of things when you go back there and you're talking about it. But I want to ask about this experience of being told that you're too much. I
Yeah.
very much relate. I know we've talked in the past how I'm also a fellow theater kid. And I think, especially as women who are bold and big and have big dreams, it's really hard to be told not to be quiet, be more ladylike, don't talk too loud, don't laugh so loud, don't take up
Mhm.
so much space, don't dream too big. And even though those words may not be the specific words that are being told to you, there is this energetic, well, you're making other people uncomfortable with
Mhm.
how much you bring. Talk to me about what that experience was like growing up and reclaiming too muchness. One of the things that I love telling my friends is like, you are never too much. And also, you are always enough. You are never too much and you're always enough. Cause I think we really
Yes.
struggle with those opposite ends of the spectrum. So I would love to hear your perspective on that experience and what your relationship with being big and bold and taking up beautiful space now is.
Yes, I love that question. And you're so right. I think it is something that a lot of young women that have these big, bold, outspoken personalities deal with, even today. And, we have come so far with the feminist movement and what women are able to do today. But there is still a lot of this, like, ingrained patriarchy, this
Hmm.
social ideology of patriarchy that we have a long ways to go in breaking. And so that's definitely, I think, the root. If I had to speculate, I think that's the root of a lot of the feedback I got when I was a kid, which is really that internalized misogyny of like
Hmm.
you are supposed to be agreeable as a woman. You are supposed to allow the boys and the men to take up the space while you are a background character and even in other female spaces, and this is something that still to this day I find I struggle with, but I found that a lot of females also didn't like my bold brazenness. I don't know if maybe in some respect maybe it was an intimidation factor. In other aspects, it was you're bringing down our overall score, right? Like this is reflecting poorly on all of us,
Sure,
right?
sure,
Your
sure.
behavior is reflecting on all the women. And so I think that definitely that would, if I had to speculate, play a big part. Is that just internalized misogyny? And if I think about the girls at school that were like very popular and they, had all the boys and all the friends and, seemingly everything from the outside looking in.
Right,
Of course, we don't know from their point of view, but
of course.
from the outside looking in, it seemed like the girls who assimilated better in society in high school, they were the agreeable kind. They were kind, they were smart, they were not super outspoken. They were very demure, and I don't feel like I embody demure. you know? I'm very brazen for sure. So, and I think growing up, eh, maybe this is just my perspective, but maybe growing up, I feel like there is a box that most people should fit in. And school tries to get you to fit into there. Your parents try to get you to fit into there, all in good faith, right? They want you to grow up
Right.
to be, a respectable young adult. But in doing that and kind of forcing kids into boxes that they don't fit in, I think it leads to a questioning of identity of,
Mm,
well, if I'm not this person, I'm not the quiet, meek, agreeable, good young lady all the time. What does that make me? Does that make me bad? Does that make me inherently evil? Who am I if I don't fit into this box that they're trying to fit me in? So as a broader conversation, I think that we could do a better job of letting kids know there are so many other choices in the box. You could be the triangle, you could be the
absolutely.
square, you could be the hexagon. Girl, there are so many other shapes. You don't have to be the box. And I think that's really what I've learned coming into my own as an adult is this is who I am. I
Yeah.
am bold, I am brazen, I am loud, I am funny. I care about other people and if that rubs you the wrong way, if I don't fit into your box, see ya,
Yeah.
I don't need you or your damn box, you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's really how I feel now as an adult, and it's a really empowering and a really freeing feeling, and something that I wish more people, and that's again really my mission, is to make sure that more people feel like that, of like, you are great the way you are, and let's just work on us. Let's work on what we want to build on. And again, if we don't fit into somebody else's box, then that was never our box to be in to begin with.
100%. I love that. And it actually makes me think back to what we started the conversation with, this idea that we are tribal creatures, right? Like, I
Mhm,
think exactly like you said, society, but also our parents in good faith, like, our parents don't want us to hurt. They want us to be
mhm,
accepted. They want us to be protected by the in group because that is
mhm.
kind of what our brains are wired to do, but it has these negative side effects of communicating, well, the pieces of you that aren't acceptable to the in group are actually dangerous, are actually
Mhm.
bad, because that could equal isolation, hurt, harm, and then caveman brain death, right? Like
Absolutely.
that still comes through. And so in my mind, it is truly a radical act to say, not only can I accept everything about myself and be proud of that and embody that, but also I can build a tribe of people who resonate with that frequency that I'm putting out. And I think that there's something so powerful about, I've been using this analogy so much recently, but a magnet, right? When you are in your authenticity, a magnet has their like the same poles that push each other away, but also those other poles that draw things in. And when you are in your authenticity, you can't be lukewarm. But the people that aren't supposed to be there anyways are going to be pushed away. But they weren't
Yeah.
supposed to be there anyways. And the people that are meant to be in your tribe, that are meant to be the group that is going to love that vibration that you're at, are going to be pulled in even more strongly. And I think for me, so long trying to fit into this box, it was actually just doling that vibe. And sure, maybe more people weren't being pushed away, but no one was being pulled in.
Right. And if anything, you are willing to sacrifice the integrity of yourself for the acceptance of these people who are only accepting you because you are forcing yourself to be the version of them that they want you to be.
Exactly. Absolutely. It makes me think of Brene Brown's acceptance versus belonging dichotomy that she defines.
Yeah, that is so good. I love Brene Brown too.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. 100%. And but, going back to the caveman brain, it's it it's really no shock that to me, that we have the social identity crisis that we do, especially
Yeah.
amongst young kids, because it is that caveman brain of, if I am pushed out of the tribe, I will die.
Yeah.
And will you die in 2025? No, probably not from being pushed out of the tribe, right? But it is that, like, oh my gosh, what will I do without these people? And it goes back to what we just said, which is, if they weren't going to accept you as you are, they were never your people to begin with.
Yep. Absolutely. Hey y'all, it's Reese, just briefly interrupting this conversation to ask you what you think, if you're enjoying it, and let me know in the comments down below. What is the thing that has been the most helpful in your journey with mental health? Whether or not you feel as though it's been a quote unquote struggle, like I mentioned at the top of the episode, we all experience stress. We all experience grief and struggle with certain things from time to time. So, what are the things that help you regulate, that help you come back to center? Is it community? Is it time alone? Is it therapy? Has that been the main thing for you? I know that that has been majorly instrumental in my life as a whole, but of course, specifically wellness and my mental health. So I'd love to know, what is it that really supports you in this work? Also, if you are enjoying this, please consider leaving us a like, a comment, a rating, a review, and subscribing to the Cohere Collective or the Making Meaning podcast wherever you may be listening or watching. This is truly the best way to support me in continuing to create content like this and to support the Making Meaning podcast and have help me reach more viewers and be able to bring on more and more people that are going to be exciting for you to listen to. So, any way that you can drop a like or a review or a comment or anything like that is always so deeply appreciated and really informative. When y'all give me feedback, it lets me know what you want to see more of. So, thank you very much. Okay, back to the conversation. So, for you going through this journey of self acceptance, right? Because it has to start internal to the self, which
Mhm.
even me stating that claim, I would imagine we agree, but we can dive into that a little bit more too. But, secondary kind of question, I suppose. A lot of these questions of acceptance and identity and belonging to the self to then be able to belong to someone else of course ties into everything that you were describing around your mental health journey. And
Mhm.
15, 16 hits around the same time. Why do you think that how much do you integrate your experience with mental health with socialization and culture? Of course, there are these genetic components as well, but in terms of nature over nurture and being in high school, and we know that so many young kids are going through these mental health crises, um, why do you think it is that it's around this age? And for you, did any of these questions of, in group, out group, tribe, protection, safety, I'm too much play into that journey for you at all?
Yeah, I think that is such a great question. And I want to give a disclaimer of this question in that I'm in no way a professional mental health person. I'm a huge advocate for therapy. I think everyone should go. And so just based on my layman's opinion, I do think it is a lot of nurture. I think it is a lot
Mm,
about the environment that we are in, and I think today, and part of my journey and what happened is social media, and
yeah.
I think that we are inundated with constant opinions and comparisons 24/7, and I really believe that if we would stop and make nurturing changes, right? Like lifestyle changes to our life, it could prevent, hopefully, us getting to a point where the lifestyle changes don't do anything anymore. Where we are
Mm,
so deep in the depression that, yeah, picking out my clothes in the morning doesn't do shit for my mental health. It doesn't help me at all. Going to therapy isn't helping it at all. Like I'm just miserable. And I'm a big advocate of proactive prevention and what
mm,
can I do today to protect my mental health a year from now? And
yes.
that is in our control and we have autonomy over that. And I think that having that discipline to say,
Mm,
I deserve more than this.
yeah. Absolutely. I one thing that's coming up for me was something I heard the other day that I just so resonated with me is that this self-care, self-love movement that we're seeing, as beautiful as it is actually just self-maintenance. Like all these things that we've labeled as like, but you need to add in these self-care things. It's like the fact that all of us aren't already doing these things to proactively take care of our bodies, our minds, our souls, and the way that those are all ingrained is part of the problem. To look at it
Absolutely.
as bonus. It's like
Hmm.
these are not bonus things. These
Right,
are
right.
necessary.
Absolutely. And there's a quote that I love. I talk about it frequently. It's from Will Smith. He did a video where he talked about self love is self discipline. And I think that really hits the nail on the head. Self love, self care. isn't always a bubble bath, right? It isn't
Yeah.
always a glass of wine after a long day, although those things are great. You won't see me, hating on a bath with a glass of wine. Absolutely not. But, sometimes self love is saying, no, I'm not going to go to that event because nobody at that event supports me. I'm going to get up early and I'm going to get my workout in because I have no other time tomorrow and I deserve to move my body.
Yeah.
Sometimes, a lot of times, self love is having the discipline to make choices that will reward us long term.
Yes. I really think about this a lot in terms of reparenting because I think when we get older, we become our own parents. We do the
Mhm.
things that our parents used to do for us, right? Like they used to bathe us, now we bathe and clean ourselves. They used to cook every meal for us, now we cook for ourselves. They also used to be our emotional spine, like our
Mhm.
emotional backboard in supporting us through everything, and now we have to do that for ourselves. They're also the ones who wake us up, who tell us to clean our rooms, right? Like all of these discipline things exactly
Mhm.
like you're speaking to. Um, and now as adults, we get to choose how we parent ourselves, how we step into the self-discipline. And I think an additional layer here that I would love to hear your thoughts on, because I completely agree. I love this quote from Will Smith because it's so true. Self love isn't, well, it's fine and I'll let myself off the hook because I love
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
It's okay, that did not set myself up for success. I'm paying the price right now. We're going to learn from this. And next time, I'm going to do better. I know how to
Yeah.
prepare for this in the future. And it's actually then implementing that, right? But it is
Yeah.
correcting without the self shame too.
Yes.
Cause that's
Yes.
another piece that I know I really struggle with that is, oh, you should have done better. You stupid, dumb idiot. You know these things. What are you doing? And it's like, okay, hang on. That's not a healthy, nice way to speak to
That's right.
your inner child. Like if you
Why am I
look
bullying myself?
literally. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that aspect too. This self-shame that can come in and how to self-discipline from a place of like honestly unconditional love, but I'll let you define it on your terms.
Yeah, no, I love that question. And I think it's so true and so fair. Something that I think all of us struggle with. I still struggle with this to this day of like, I can do more, push harder. You're not
Yeah.
working hard enough, more. So I think in some aspect, we all have that little, devil on the shoulder, so to speak. That's always like,
Totally.
but I honestly believe that it just takes practice.
Mm,
I think we are so, for the most part, I think a lot of us are just so ingrained in speaking to ourselves that way, whether that's the way our parents spoke to themselves or how they spoke to us. It is so ingrained in who we are and how our brain is wired.
mhm.
And to rewire that brain, you have to practice, right? It takes time to break a habit. It takes time to build a new habit, which is really what that is. That negative self-talk is there out of habit because you've allowed yourself to speak to yourself like that for X amount of years. So
Right.
really, I believe that it's calling yourself out in the moment when you notice that you're saying, I look fat in this shirt, stopping right in your tracks and saying, nope, I am not going to speak to myself like that. I apologize for how I've spoken to myself and really holding yourself accountable. You wouldn't speak to a friend like that. If you were like, girl, you look fat as hell, that's right. You'd be like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. You look beautiful, right? You would
Yeah.
take accountability for that moment of like having a screw up. And I think we need to do that with ourselves. Just take a moment, be like, girl, we're stopping this. I told you we're not
Yeah.
talking to ourselves like this anymore. And then move on with the rest of your day and having those little moments where you call yourself out, let it go, move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really does go back to the awareness piece too, because I know for me, the more that I practice it, the more you actually become aware of how often
So
you're
true.
doing it. And it's like, oh my God,
Yes.
I was talking to myself like this all day long.
Yep.
But it really does go back to that baseline rewiring of, okay, fundamentally, what does my relationship with myself look like? Because that's
Right.
going to ripple into all of these other relationships that I have with my tribe.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, I want more people to know that You are the love of your life.
Mm,
You are the greatest friend that you will ever have. And she deserves to be spoken to with an abundance of love and respect and kindness. And like you deserve that for yourself. And to build that internal sense of self and to build that internal self-worth, how are we to do that if we're constantly just beating ourselves down inside of our own head? So,
yeah.
and it kind of goes back to that discipline of like being disciplined enough to hold yourself to that standard and say, I demand better for myself.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And a thing that's coming to mind too is like we're really seeing, to speak to what you brought up in the beginning with feminism and this um movement. I do believe that some scholars are suggesting we're starting to move into a new wave of feminism, which I think is really interesting. But this new era of feminism and of women standing up for themselves in a really profound way. And I'm kind of like, we've put our foot down in a lot of ways with like dating and
Yes.
how men will treat us. Are you treating yourself the way a shitty boyfriend would treat you?
Hmm.
If you're not going to put like, it's that just kind of occurred to me. And I'm like, I don't know if that's actually an accurate or helpful assessment at all, but I'm like, damn, I'm
Yeah.
gaslighting myself the same way that shitty
Absolutely.
ex
No,
did. Yeah.
absolutely. I don't know if you saw that Vogue article on "Is having a
Yes.
boyfriend embarrassing?" But I thought that article was so interesting and opened up so many conversations about how like back in the day, right? Like the 40s, 50s, like our grandparents era, there was a true like net positive to having a husband, right?
Right.
You hit a social status, you got to be taken care of, you were financially taken care of. There was an actual net positive to
Yeah.
having a boyfriend and
Well,
a
you
husband.
could have a credit card, you could own land, you could like, all of these things now became options for you.
Correct. Yes. And now we're in an era where it's like, I can do all this by myself. You're going to need to bring something else to the table other than just your
Yes.
plate. What are you going to
Yes.
bring to our table?
Oh
And
my god, I love that.
I think so many women are starting to realize like I actually don't need a boyfriend. I don't need a husband because I am the whole package. And
Yeah.
it says something like 80% of women are looking for 20% of the men. And I think that this
Mm,
new feminist movement is really going to it's going to be a trial by fire for men and that men are really going to have to start showing up and being men
yeah.
in order to get the attention and to bag a woman, like it's going to
Yeah.
be different than just, oh, I'm a dude and I have a job. Okay. And
That's table stakes.
that's
That's
right.
yeah.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
bare minimum.
exactly. I think this very much relates to your work in mental health as well, because I think men's mental health is absolutely something that we see brought into this conversation a lot and
Yes.
is, of course, deeply important. And I read an article the other day that was like most men that have partners and children report feeling fulfilled and purposeful, but those are also the men that are the most likely to exhibit behaviors of self harm and suicidal ideation and
Mhm.
depression. And it's like, okay, so there is a grand disconnect here in the stories that we have told men will feed them fulfillment and purpose and their real life experience. And on the other hand, I think we're also seeing men's mental health being brought to the table as an excuse for bad behavior sometimes. And I think it's really nuanced in, yes, of course, we need to be making space for this self care, this self love beyond gender, beyond ideology. Like everyone deserves this baseline self discipline, self love. What is your 2 cents on this balance here? Of course, you're speaking as a woman, so you can't speak
Mhm.
directly to a man's experience, but in this kind of realm, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And I honestly think that it really comes down to what you want from yourself, man or woman. And I think with men, in regards touching on, men using mental health as an excuse for their poor behavior, those are weak men. Those are weak men using their mental health as an excuse for poor behavior. Women too. If women are doing that, oh, I have depression, I have anxiety, that's why I'm an asshole. That's no excuse. You know how many people struggle with depression and anxiety? That's no excuse, and how you treat people matters. And you're accountable for your behavior regardless of whatever you're going through. We're all going through something. And so I really think that that's a weak minded person that
Mm,
uses these things that they're going through, life, as an excuse for
right.
why they can't be better or why they can't show up better. And I really feel like my husband's a great example of this. I married a really great man. I hit the jackpot on my husband for real. And he's never been to therapy, never went growing up. And he recently started going this year, and he's really grown. I mean, we've only been going for about 6 months. Him and I together. I've been going for years, as I said, but he and I together have only been going for about 6 months. And the just trajectory of growth that I've seen is crazy, because he's really listening to that feedback from our therapist and applying it in his everyday life. And he doesn't have to do that, right? Like, there are plenty of men out there that go to therapy just to appease their wife, just to get
Check
them to
the
shut
box.
up. Check the box. I sit there for an hour and then I go on with my week. But it really takes somebody who cares and like wants to be a good person and a good man to listen to that feedback and want to apply it in their
Yeah.
everyday life.
Well, and it's not just cares about you. Because I think this behavior
Mm.
absolutely shows, of course, he cares about you. He's doing this because he loves you. He wants to nurture your relationship. But fundamentally, it shows he cares about himself and he cares about
Yes.
his own growth. And
Yes.
that to me is the signifier of like someone you can build a healthy partnership with, because I'm going to be caring about myself. I'm going to be investing in my growth. And when we invest in ourselves, when you partner together, that is investing in each other too.
Yes, absolutely. It's like the old age saying of you have to put your own life mask on first before you
Yeah.
can help anybody else. And it's so true. And to expand on our conversation about men's mental health and kind of the stigma around it, I think that, so often forever it has been swallow it.
Yeah.
Swallow it, stuff it down. And now I think, we're seeing these men struggle with their mental health because they're carrying all of this on their shoulders with little to no tools to help them internally. And they have
Mm,
all of these pressures of fatherhood and being a husband and being a provider, and all of these weight that men carry, whether they're married or not, just this burden of feeling like I have to be the man, I have to be the
mhm.
shit. And if you don't have those internal tools to help you regulate those internal feelings, regulate that internal sense of self, feel like the shit even on days where you're like I'm not, you know.
Yeah.
I so I think that that's really what we're seeing with men is we haven't really given them a world where they can feel safe to go seek out those tools, go to therapy, talk to their other friends about it, like we have created that space for women.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I do see this really interesting dichotomy too of like women having created this space for women. And I think it's because, being an oppressed group, you kind of turn to your in group, right? You turn to your tribe and it's like, are you experiencing this too? Are we on the same page? Okay, we can support each other in this now. And because the messaging for men has been swallow it and stuff it down and be okay and suck it up, they're not going to reach out to anyone in their in group. It's so isolating. But I completely agree. It's like it's time for
Mhm.
men to really build that community too. They deserve that. And that's really
We
what I
do.
think we we need as a society, right? And like again, your husband is a great example of like when you're caring for yourself, that actually makes you so much better able to be there for these other people. And if being a partner, if being a parent is something that is important to you, good golly, Miss Molly, like you have to be taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing that I would recommend to men that are wanting to have that tribe and that are maybe feeling alone and feeling the weight of the world on their shoulders without a community to help them with that, is to find those resources. There are some really great men in the space these days, like Jay Shetty, Stephen Barlow. There are
Yes.
some really great men in the space now that are leading the way for other men to feel safe to talk about their feelings, to feel safe to talk about the burdens that they feel. And so hopefully that conversation can start to open up for men, because I believe that they deserve that space as well. Like you said, we all do, regardless of gender, sex, ideology, whatever. We all deserve that space where we feel seen. And I think that that's what's so beautiful about women, is that we just so naturally built that sisterhood. Just
Right.
it is unspoken across all walks of life, different languages, different countries. We
Mm-hmm.
all have that invisible string that ties our
Yes.
sisterhood together.
My favorite example of it is no matter where you are in the world, literally could be anywhere, foreign language, foreign country, any sort of burden or barrier. If you're in a bathroom and someone needs a tampon, girl, we got
We
each
got
other.
you. We got
It's
you.
and to me it's like, but that is it so speaks to that invisible string that
It
does tie
does.
women together because of that shared experience.
So true.
I do want to go back to a little bit more of your story, and in you coming out on the other side. That's probably not a great way to phrase it because, of course, mental health is a relationship. It's a cycle. We're constantly growing with it. But getting through these really dark, hard periods and being able to now be an advocate, um, what do you think it was when you were younger that gave you the courage and bravery and ability to seek help? But post seeking help, what was that journey like to feel like, oh, this is what getting better does feel like? Like, when did you realize that you were getting better?
Yeah, that is such a great question. To answer your first question of kind of how did I get there, like what kind of led me to getting better. Going back to the very beginning, it was my family. It was
Mm,
my tribe. I honestly don't think that I'd be sitting here today if it weren't for them. Um, I was pretty well checked out at the time that they swooped in. Um, so to tell you kind of a story, I was with a bad group of friends at this time. Again, kind of going back to that, trying to assimilate with people who really didn't appreciate me, really didn't love
sure.
me for who I was. And so that was the group that I was with. And they were toxic and they had their own issues in and of them own self. And so naturally, we did as teenagers did, which is we thought, what'll fix this? Alcohol. So le- let's
Yep.
get alcohol involved. That couldn't possibly make this situation literally any worse.
Yep.
And so we get together, a small group of us, and we all steal a little bit of liquor from our parents. We get to this house party after homecoming, and we all are, in my friend's room drinking and being a fool. And it's almost like my mom knew, like she had a mother's intuition for
Mhm.
this day. Like she knew something wasn't right. And so she actually took my car from me because she didn't believe that I wasn't drinking and she didn't want me to be drinking and driving. And so we're at my friend's house drinking, doing what we shouldn't be doing. And the night takes an ugly turn. I get, far too drunk as a 16-year-old who doesn't know my limits. I get far too drunk. I get sick, vomit everywhere. A fight ensues. A fight ensues. People are pissed that there's vomit everywhere. I get it. And so I'm being kicked out of this house. It's the middle of the night, probably 2 a.m. I'm being kicked out of this house, covered in vomit, in my PJs, no car, getting kicked out of this house. Get out of this house. I said, okay, I'll leave, but I'm not going anywhere without my phone. So if you could just give me my phone, I'll take my phone and I'll leave. And they were like, no, we're not going to give you your phone. Get out of here or we're going to call the cops. And I was like, call the damn cops. I'm not leaving without my phone. And
Right.
so we go back and forth for a while. I end up right hooking the person that had my phone right in the jaw, which sidebar, you made the right decision drunk when 12 years ago sober, you're like, I would do the same thing. I would do it again. I
Yeah.
would hit you again. So they deserved it. So
Yeah.
punched homegirl right in the face, snagged my phone, ran out of the house. So
Holy
here I
shit.
am, middle of the night, 2 a.m. I'm 16 years old. I'm covered in vomit in my PJs, and I have my phone and nothing else. And I'm wandering the streets and I'm thinking, what should I do? Like, should I call my friend? She's probably asleep. Should I call this guy that I'm talking to? He's probably drunk at a different party. Like, who should I call? Who should I call? Thinking of my tribe, right? My quote unquote tribe at the time, because they were all
Right.
useless in the end, right? And so I ended up falling back to my true tribe and my people. And I knew I was busted. I knew I was going to be in trouble, but like I needed help. And it was
Yeah.
in that moment that I knew I have to call my mom. I
Mhm.
have to call her. And that is one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give to teenagers today, which is if you are in a pickle, if you have fucked up and you need help, call your mom, man.
Yeah.
Call your mom. I promise you it will be better than whatever you're trying to work out in your head, whatever alternate back plan. Just call your mom. And so
Yeah.
I called my mom. She wakes up on the first ring. I
Of
tell her
course.
like a mom does, right?
Yeah.
I tell her, I need help, can you come get me? And so she immediately gets in the car. I mean, her and my dad are in the car in maybe 30 seconds, and I'm trying to like navigate to her where I'm at in this town. And it's a regular suburban neighborhood, so I'm like, I don't know, it looks like every other neighborhood in town. There's like
Yeah.
houses and trees, and I think I heard a dog barking back there,
Yeah.
so
They're
it's like
like,
a
so that
regular
could be
neighborhood.
anywhere.
Yeah, they're like, okay, we'll take a right and see if that helps. And so I'm trying to navigate them to me, and I see headlights coming down the road. And so I stop looking at these headlights, thinking this is them. And the car slows down right next to me in the street. And I'm on the sidewalk. And I realize in this moment that is not my dad's truck. And they roll the windows down, and it's a truck filled with dudes, probably in their 20s or 30s. And my heart immediately sinks to my ass. And I'm like,
Mhm.
this is not good. This is not good at all. And they're like hollering to me, like, come over to the car. And I still have my mom on the phone. And so I put my phone in like just the little pocket of my PJs, right? It's not even like a legit pocket. It's just like a piece of fabric barely
Right.
sewn on. I stick my phone in that pocket and I square up. I'm like, well, I've gotten in one fight tonight. I will get in another. I'm not going down without a fight. I square up to these guys. They're approaching me.
Oh
And
my
then I
God.
see another set of headlights coming down the street. And at this point, I'm thinking, well, I'm probably screwed. Like, I could maybe fight off these two guys, but there's a whole other car. Like, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
And as that car approaches, I realize that that's my dad's car. And my mom jumps out of the car before it's even slowed down, runs up to us, what's going on? And those guys tail it back
Bolt.
into their car and get out of there. And I just break down to my mom, like
Mhm.
just my savior, literally in that moment. My mom and dad came to my rescue, and she took me home and she asked me, what is happening? And it's in that moment that I decide to finally reveal to her the struggles that I've been experiencing the last year or so, and that I really just didn't want to be on this earth anymore. I'm miserable. I'm unhappy here. And like, I had a grandmother who passed away years prior, and I was like, I'd rather be with her. Like, I just want to go be with her and be with Jesus in heaven. And I'm over this. I don't want to be here anymore. And I've spoken so many times about like how my parents truly saved my life in that night, because they wasted no time. They were like, we have got to get you help. We have got to get you on the other side of this. And they got me in therapy that same week. I want to say it was like the next day I was in
Wow.
therapy talking to somebody. And it was in going to therapy and talking about these experiences and these people that I was depending on and the lack of sense of self that I really realized that it comes from within. If
Mhm.
you want to be accepted, you have to accept yourself. If you want to be loved, you have to love yourself. If you want to forge a path in this world, you have to forge it yourself. And it goes back to that you have to put your own life mask on first. And if that means that you're not accepted by certain groups of people, if that means that some people don't like you, that's a small price to pay to have this unshakable sense of self.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And one, um, even though I'm not a proponent of like violence or solving things with violence, if someone's kicking you out of a house at 3 a.m. and you're drunk and you've thrown up and they're not they have your phone in their hand,
Yeah.
that's life or death. That is
Isn't that
life or death,
crazy?
and you
Yes.
got to do what you got to do. So I agree with you. Like no, that
Yeah.
yeah, good for
And
you.
it really did. It ended up saving my life because had I not
Yeah,
done that and I just left, like, God knows what would have happened to me. I
right,
probably would have been taken by those people, and who knows what would have happened
right.
from there. So it really was life or death. I was like, I'm not leaving here
Yeah,
without my phone.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, and I love also what you said about being able to call your mom. And I think that one, it's such a privilege to have parents that you feel safe with, even if it's like, oh my God, my mom's gonna kill me. It's like no matter how mad or how angry you think your parents will be at you, they will always be more mad that you didn't call
Yes.
than anything else that could have happened, right? It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
how bad you've messed up, how much you feel like you're going to be in trouble or disappointed them or embarrassed. The thing that they will be the most mad at you about is the fact that you did not call them.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they're they're there for you, you know? And even if there's someone out there who doesn't have a relationship with their parents or doesn't feel safe with their parents in that way, whatever that adult is for you, whoever that guardian is for you, it doesn't have to be a mom and a dad.
Right.
But
An aunt, an uncle, a sister, a best
right.
friend, your best friend's mom.
Yes, yes. Whoever that person is that has you,
Yes.
they
And
will always yeah.
I heard a
No, go ahead, go
quote
ahead.
I heard a quote the other day that was so great, and I'll have to find who said it and send it to you so we can credit
Mhm.
them for this. Um, but they talked about how, people don't want to come to you with stuff because, they don't want to be a burden, right? Which I can absolutely relate to that. I didn't talk about my problems for a long time because I felt like this is my problem to fix. Like it's my fault I ended up in this scenario. And this creator, he said, how dare you take away the opportunity for somebody to sit in the mud with you? How dare you take that chance for them to sit with you for 8, 10 minutes and just hold space with you in this time, not trying to fix anything, not trying to change your life, but just sit with you and to know that, like, for
Yeah,
10 minutes, you're not alone. And
absolutely.
it is such an honor to have a tribe, to have people to sit in the mud with you with and use them. Utilize that.
Yes. I remember the first my therapist, this was probably at some point in high school because I definitely went through this phase where I was like very in my like I'll be a martyr. Everyone like I just don't want to be a burden. I'll take on any pain if it could take pain away from other people, which
Yes.
sounds really lovely on the surface but is actually deeply psychologically unhealthy. Um but that's a much longer story. But I remember the first time my therapist said, "Reese, you know how joyful you are when you get to help other people." And I was like, "Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do." And she's like, "Think of that feeling when someone comes to you, when someone asks you for advice, when someone asks you for help, when you get to give someone a ride, when you get to be the shoulder to lean on, the shoulder to cry on, and how fulfilled and full you feel every time you don't rely on someone else, you are taking that feeling away from them." And like I had to pick my jaw up off the floor because it was like, holy shit, I actually, in my fear of rejection, am hurting these people
Yeah,
by not
absolutely.
trusting them in their wholeness, but also taking away the opportunity for them to give back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is, and we don't mean for it to be, but it is a
Right. Of
very
course.
self-serving thing where it's like you you don't know, you couldn't possibly help me. This is my problem. Like, it's a very self-serving way to think, even if we
Hmm.
don't intend for it to be, it
Right.
does it is only self-serving to think like that and to not allow other people the privilege of knowing you like that.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely, I completely agree. So, very next day, you're in therapy, and also kudos to your parents.
Yes.
I think there are a lot of situations where, you open up, you ask for help, and parents may not know what to do, or they may have a pattern of not trusting therapy for whatever reason. So, bless your parents for taking the steps that they needed to take. You end up in therapy, and I'm pretty sure you shared with me in the past that you've been in therapy pretty much ever since.
Yes.
So, talk about the relationship with therapy. I know for me, I've been in therapy for 13 years, once a week, every week since I was 12 years old. And oh my God, I guess that means 14 years now. Weird. Um, Getting older.
Aging
But
ourselves.
right. Um, but a lot of people will say, like, why are you still in therapy? Doesn't that mean it doesn't work? And I'm like, oh
Mm.
no, I am still in therapy because it works. It is the stopgap that I have. Like, it is the doorstop that every week it is a period of time that I have carved out to check in with myself to make sure, like, where am I at? Am I doing okay? Am I practicing the self discipline of self love? Am I checking in? Am I feeling nervous or anxious about this? Or am I back on my old bullshit and I need my therapist to slap me across the face a little bit? However that may play out in session. Um, but talk to me about your relationship with therapy and talk therapy. And of course, like cognitive behavioral therapy is usually the therapy that people think about. It's like the
Right.
classic therapy, but there's so many other therapies that are becoming popular too in terms of like somatic therapy and
EMDR.
EMDR,
Yeah.
yes, and light therapy and color therapy. There's so many beautiful skills and techniques. So, what's been your journey in session and the relationship, like having to open up to therapists and get really vulnerable with yourself, but also with someone else, and what that's been like for you and how you've gotten to this place of like, everyone should do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this question. Yeah, I do. I think everybody should go to therapy. I like to think of therapy like a recipe book, right? If
Mm,
somebody asked you, "Hey, can you make me some tiramisu for my birthday?" You're likely not just going to go to Walmart and be like, "I think there's lady fingers in it, some kind of cheese. I'll figure it out," right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
probably wouldn't do that. The very first thing you would do is say, "Okay, let me look up a recipe." And so I really love to think of therapy as the recipe book of life. And
Mm,
I've gotten so many different recipes, so many different tips and tricks to help me navigate life through therapy. And I did take a little bit of a break there for maybe about 4 years when I was in college, and I moved away from my first therapists, because that was an in-person therapy, which I
mhm,
really appreciated, I really needed at that time was an in-person therapy. Somebody, again, to sit in the mud with me and look me in
mhm.
my eyes and say, "This is not the end, and you will carry on with this."
Yeah.
And once I felt strong enough to be on my own for a little bit, I took a step away from therapy and I still use my tools. I kind of like to think of it like if you've never worked out before and you hire a personal therapist, a personal trainer, and you go to the gym to see your personal trainer for 6 months or so, they teach you all of these different exercises. Great. You move on. You do these exercises on your own for a little bit but there's no way to truly know if your health is getting better unless you go back to the doctor and measure it.
Mm,
And I guess I didn't really realize that I hadn't measured my health in this regard since I had stopped going to therapy the first time. And why I started again was because I got a new boss at work a few years ago. They hired a new person and it was not good. It was oil and
mm,
water. It was it was tumultuous to say the least. And I realized very quickly in that time that I do not have the tools I need to deal with this person.
Mm.
All of the exercises that I had learned previously are not helping me move this weight now. And
Mhm.
so I went back to therapy because I said, "Hey, I don't have a recipe for this one. I need a recipe to
Yeah.
deal with this one. Can you help me?" And I've been going to her ever since. We've been working together for about 2 years now. And that boss has been long gone since I had started with my current therapist. She's been gone for about a year and a half now. And I still go because it's just so great to have that person to soundboard with,
Mhm.
again, to sit in the mud with, somebody to brainstorm ideas with, somebody to help keep you grounded and kind of keep you
Yeah.
down to earth, almost be like the rock that you need sometimes. And so, to anybody who's feeling like, I don't need therapy, or I went for a long time and now I don't need it ever again, I would encourage you to think of it as additional recipes, more tools, right? Do you
Yeah.
know how to make pasta from scratch? Do you know how to make tiramisu from scratch? Let's go to therapy and let's learn some of these tools and some of these recipes that are going to help us carry us through life, because surely, as you can attest, the lessons that you were going through when you were 12 or 13 in therapy are not at all the lessons that you're going through today. So
Absolutely.
stick with it. You never know what is going to come out of therapy and the tools and the recipes that you're going to carry for the rest of your life, and then be able to pass on to other people. Oh my gosh, I have this great tiramisu recipe. You should try it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, my favorite thing. My therapist told me this.
Yes.
Um
Yes. Well, my therapist said.
Yeah. Well, actually, one of the best compliments I've ever received, one of my good friends who's also in therapy, I said something and she goes, "My therapist said that the other day." And I was like,
Ah, the
"Me?
worst. I know.
Little me?"
And, like,
Um,
nothing makes you feel called out more than, like, your therapist saying it, and then 3 days later, your friend says it, and you're like, "Is this God trying to
yeah.
tell me something?"
You're like, "This is the signs are signing."
Okay, I hear you.
Yeah, I'm listening. Um But no, I so love that, and I so agree, and I really love the gym analogy because it's one thing to say like, "Okay, I wanna get fit. I wanna work on my self-care, my self-love. Like, I have this difficulty. I'm just gonna go to the gym." You are going to hurt yourself if you don't know how to use those machines. You
Mhm.
are going to like overdo it or underdo it or not know exactly where the limit is, and you need someone to teach you, right?
Right.
To guide you in how to use these machines. And then eventually you might not need that personal trainer anymore and you because you've mastered these skills, but then you're going to plateau at a certain point. It's like, okay, I think I'm feeling pretty fit. I'm feeling like I solved this issue, but there's so much more. I can target this muscle group. And I've always
Right.
felt like this was a little weak. And, you know, I can run a 12-minute mile, but I'd really like to get under 10, like whatever that looks like. And I think I need some more skills for that. And I think a lot of people look at therapy as like a way to get out of the deep end. But what I
Mhm.
don't, and it can do that. It absolutely can. But I think the piece that a lot of people miss is that it's not just about getting out of the deep end, it's also about swimming laps and learning new
Yes.
strokes and swimming faster and doing a flip turn, like all of these
Yes.
ways that you can level up and truly not just survive, but work on thriving.
Yes.
That is so powerful. And just like, the best athletes have coaches, the best, you know, th- therapists have therapists. Like we
That's
all,
right.
again, going back to the tribe, it's like I absolutely consider my therapist part of my tribe because
Yes.
she teaches me about things that she's learned from her life directly, but also school and education. And same thing, like our teachers, our mentors. These are people here to help guide us. And you don't have to do it alone. And I think there's also this misconception of like, well, it's weaker to do it
Yes.
um, with help. And I'm like, fine, call it weaker if that's where your mindset is right now. It's also a lot longer. It's also a lot harder. It's also a lot more confusing. Like, even if it feels weak to you to seek outside help, I'll tell you this, it'll be faster.
Mhm. Yeah, and, I've always really resented that statement
I
of
agree.
it being weak to seek therapy. You're weak if you need help. Like, I've always really resented that statement, I think, because I believe the exact opposite to be true.
Yeah,
I think it
totally.
takes immense strength to look at yourself in the mirror and say, "I love you too much to let you brave this alone. I
That.
love you too much to allow you to continue down this path of ruin without seeking some kind of alternate course." And I think it takes a great strength to want to correct the flaws within, and I think that that's why a lot of people who have that, "Oh, it's weak to go to therapy," "Oh, you're a loser if you do therapy," insert blurb here.
Mhm,
I think that those people in particular, they have a hard time facing their demons, and
mhm.
that's a projection, I believe, um, that you're too scared to look inside and say, "I'm not perfect and I need help." And so you're pushing that onto me for trying to seek better and for
Yeah.
trying to learn the flaws and to correct the course here.
Well, for doing the radical act of loving myself in a world that
Yes.
tells us that's a waste of time, that that's
Yeah.
not productive, when
Yes.
it's the most expansive thing I've ever done. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it makes me so much a better steward of all of my relationships, of my passions, of my projects, of everything in my life. Um, so
And
please, please.
I was gonna say, I think anybody who's done the work and who has really put in the time in therapy and in self-discovery, they will be the first to tell you that it is ugly work. It is ugly, ugly work to sit and to pick out all of the ways that you are not showing up, to
Mhm.
pinpoint all of the ways and that you are an ugly human and how to fix that. So those ugly pieces of you turn into the most beautiful pieces of you. And it's ugly, hard, tumultuous work, especially at the beginning for somebody who's
Mhm.
never been. It's your first time going, it's your first time exploring it. It takes great strength. And anybody who's walked those shoes will tell you how strong you are for taking
Mhm.
that step to say, "Hey, I need help. I can't do this alone. And I have pieces of me that I don't like."
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, one thing I've been thinking a lot about is this idea that, we've all heard the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. I I think actually it's impossible to treat other people any differently than how you treat yourself.
Wow.
And it's something I've really been meditating on because I'm like, there's a lot of hate in this world. There's a lot of people oppressing and repressing people, and there's a lot of people stripping power and freedom from others. And I'm like, what brings a human being to be able to do that? And the only answer that I can come to that makes sense is because they continually strip power and freedom and self-love from themselves. And that it's the people who routinely do that to other people that are the ones that cannot look in the mirror and that
Yeah.
can, like when you're lying awake at night, that have all of the things that make them feel small and too much and not enough, that then project that outwardly onto someone
Yeah.
else because it's painful to feel like you're the only one that feels that way. So
Absolutely.
I want someone else to understand how it feels to be little, how I feel.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's why, again, it's a cliche because it's true, but misery loves company.
Yeah.
And there is no shortage of miserable people in this world. And let me tell you, miserable people hate to see a happy person thriving. Oh, they hate it. Because again, it's a reminder of I am not those things. How dare you be
Yeah.
happy and joyous and go lucky when I'm miserable? And that can't possibly be my fault, right? it's your fault that you're happy and I'm not. And so, yeah, I think that people in general are only able to meet you as deeply as they've met themselves.
Mhm.
And that's okay. I've really learned over the years that that's okay. And those people that refuse to meet themselves at all, good luck to you. You're not a part of my camp,
Yeah, and I
and
think
that's
that
okay.
yes, absolutely, and it's like, "Hey, we don't have to be each other's cup of tea, peace and love," like and also I think there's nothing wrong with having relationships that are at different levels. I think everyone has
Mhm.
experienced that is like, "Yeah, this is the group of people that I go party with, and they're a fun time, but I might not spill my guts, and this is a group of
Right.
people that, um" like you have different levels with different people, and I think that's really normal, but also part of the
Yes.
boundaries that we set with ourself with when someone shows you who they are, believe them, and
Yes.
do not betray your own boundary just to try and, um, create a sense of closeness with people who haven't met themselves there, and you want them to meet you there, but they may not be able to yet, and that's okay. They're
And
on their
that's totally
journey.
okay. Absolutely. And that's what I always say is so long as you are open and willing to learn and grow, that's all I could ever ask from
Yeah.
somebody that I care about and somebody that I love. I don't need you to be in, 10 plus years of therapy like me. I don't need you to, gratitude journal if that's not your thing,
Right.
but I do need you to want more for yourself today than you did last week.
Yeah.
And
Oh my god, yeah.
I think that more of us should, hold the people in our circle to that standard of like, I want you to want to get better. I want you to want to be the greatest person that you can. And again, if you can't, that's cool. Maybe you're my twice a year Starbucks friend and that's great. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not going to be able to be that kind of person for you if you can't be that kind of person for yourself.
Whoa. Yes. Yes. And I think the reason why that is so important, because I completely agree with you, is because you're almost accountability buddies in this work that we're doing together. And there is nothing more inspiring to me than seeing someone do this work for them. I call it living coherently because, of course, then Cohere Collective and the whole thing is like,
Right.
that's my language
Yes.
for it. But
Yes.
doing this work is inspiring, and on the days when it's like, "Man, I feel like shit. I don't wanna do the routines and habits and behaviors that I know are taking me towards the person that I want to be," but then you remember, you know, I've got my bud who is doing it too, and I know they have hard days too, and I'm really gonna feel better once I do, and it
Yes.
it just makes it easier to know that you're not the only person walking that path. I do want to ask, since I always like to ask this question, especially when it comes to mental health and these big questions, because to me, mental health is one of the building blocks that everyone needs in their life, right? Like wellness is just, we're a human being, we live in physical bodies, and that's a part of this life. But of course, this physical body also has energetic elements to it where we have consciousness and a mind and these other things that exist. What is your relationship to spirituality, and how has that changed your relationship with mental health and vice versa? Like, does your experience with mental health inform spirituality and spirituality inform mental health? And what does that all mean to you?
Yeah, I love this question because I do find myself to be very spiritual, and I have a group of girlfriends who are also very spiritual. And so that's really great that I have, again, that tribe. We call ourselves the coven. So I have that coven
I love
that,
that.
I can lean on. They're the best. So I can lean on the spirituality aspect a lot with them and kind of soundboard with them a lot. But I do find that one begets the other.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually raised Catholic. And so I grew up Roman Catholic. I went to Catholic church, Catholic camp every summer forever. And I really loved having faith. I'm still a Catholic to this day, but my faith looks a lot different. I
Mm-hmm.
actually took a class in college. It was like it was misadvertised, okay? It was like a it was like a weird behaviors class. So I thought it was going to be talking about like schizophrenia and like
Yeah.
sociopaths. And I was like, oh, cool. I love talking about like weird psychology and stuff. That's not at all what it was. The class at its core was basically about how like everything that we know to be in terms of religion, spirituality, etc., is a lie and it doesn't exist, and that there's no such thing as ghosts or aliens or other realms or spirits or anything like
Whoa.
that. And it was crazy. It was like
It's just
honestly a really
materialist
traumatic class.
propaganda. Yeah.
That's what it was. It was crazy. And I actually remember
Wow.
talking to my parents about it because I called them one day after class and I was like, I'm taking the craziest class where this guy's basically saying that like none of it's real, that like if you can't see it, hear it, touch it, it doesn't exist. And at the time, my parents were like, well, if an atheist walked up to you on the street and was like, God doesn't exist, would you be like, okay, and like believe it and go on with your life? And I was like, well, this is a completely different scenario because this isn't just like some rando on the street. Like I paid money for this course. I have to pass it. I have to go to this lecture every week where for an hour
Right.
he's drilling into us like why these things aren't real. And so to be honest, that class really did a number on how I view my faith.
Yeah.
And it really shook my faith. And to be honest, I still haven't really found my way all the way back there. But I
Sure.
do find in moments of distress and in moments of, turmoil and heartache, I'm like, God, please, I need you, man. I need you here. And so I definitely do still lean back on my faith when in times of crisis. But since then, I have moved much more into a spirituality realm
Mhm.
and talking to the earth, talking to
Yeah.
the moon and the stars, and really aligning with the world and the life that we live in. And like I said, my girlfriends are really great with this too because they're great to soundboard off of. And oh, I had these weird idiosyncrasies this week. Like let's talk about it and see what it might mean. Or oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I had this thing that kept popping up over and over again, and I'm having deja vu. Like let's talk about it and see what it means. And so I've definitely moved much more into spirituality. But I think regardless if you're religious or spiritual or some weird hybrid of the two, kind of like me, I think that your mental health does play a big role in your spirituality and your spirituality in your mental health, and that they can learn from each other and
Mm.
they can teach each other. And there are times where I feel like my spirit and my soul are telling me things before my mind can get there.
Mhm.
And vice versa. There are times where my mind is giving me red flags of this isn't right. You need to reassess this. You need to take another look at this, even if maybe my initial feeling towards it felt safe.
Right.
And so yeah, I do feel like one begets the other. And yeah, like I said with my faith of I don't know, when shit hits the fan, I turn to God.
Mhm. I love that, and I'm quite similar in the spiritual aspect, and I love researching, like, any sacred text, any belief system. It's like there's little golden nuggets in all of these different experiences, and I think
Yes.
having people that are safe to bounce these things off of are that's so valuable because of course, a lot of people would call, there's like religious psychosis and different ways that spirituality is linked to mental health. And oftentimes it can be really demonized in a scary way. But I've also found the times when I feel the most sane, the most aligned, are also the times when I feel so deeply connected to nature, to the world around me. And whatever that higher power looks like, wholer power that exists with all of us together. I think that's so beautiful. For me, purpose feels deeply tied to my spirituality, but this mental health piece does too. So, in making this decision to start a podcast and create community around supporting other people in this journey, whatever that looks like for them, what is that spark for you? And what really, moved the needle into creating Someone Should Know, but also the other grand dreams that you have around it?
Yeah, I love this question. Someone Should Know was something that I marinated on for many, many years. So to kind of back the story up just a little bit, I went to therapy for many years and loved it. And at the time, had no idea that I would create a platform based on talking about these things and being an advocate for mental health and mental strength. So it kind of happened very naturally in that once I started to learn these tools and these tips and tricks and different resources and other creators that I really liked that spoke on these things, I started to just share that with people in my everyday life, my friends, my family. I'm an acting coach. I've been coaching acting for many years. And so I would share that with my students on, how to be resilient in the entertainment space and, how to not let, them get you down. Right. And I loved just talking about it in my everyday life with everyday people. And my friends and my family were like, you should talk about this. Like, you have, the personality and the tenacity to be able to like put yourself in the public eye and talk about this. And you should do that. And I sat on it for a long time, out of fear, honestly.
Sure.
Fear of judgment, fear of criticism, of comments, of, whatever. And what moved the needle for me this year was I had a friend of mine who took her own life at the beginning of this year. And unfortunately, she is not the first person that I've loved and cared about to have taken her own life. In fact, she was the second person in a year that had taken their life. And she was awesome. Like, she was so beautiful and funny, and she cared about other people. She genuinely, honestly cared about people and about their stories. And when I heard about her passing, I had fallen off with her for a few years. She had kind of walked away from acting, and I had kind of walked away from the studio that I was teaching at the time. And so our paths had kind of diverged for the last few years, leading up to her death. And I was really just devastated that I had lost touch with her prior to her death, and that, I wished that I could have helped her, and as so many of us do when people lose their life tragically, you immediately go inward of like,
Hmm.
what could I have done? Should I have done anything? And I know there was nothing that I could have done, and I wasn't close with her at the time of her death, and there was nothing at that time I could have done. But losing her and losing that beautiful soul, it like killed me. It like just killed me that we as a world took a net loss that day because a true light was taken from us that day. And that's how I felt. I felt like the world is darker today without you. And even having not, been able to talk to her for, a couple years leading up to her death, I still felt the world is darker today without this person here. And I'd had enough. I was like, this is just so this is just fucking stupid, man. Like people need help right now. And you're not going to help them because you're
Mm,
scared that some miserable person on the internet isn't going to get it. It wasn't for them then. If they don't
yeah,
get it, it wasn't for them. But the people that do get it, it could really matter and it could really change or save their life. And that's really what moved the needle for me was losing yet another beautiful soul, a beautiful light in this world and thinking like this, I've had it. Enough is enough. And
yeah.
I started putting the motions in place for someone should know probably 2, 3 weeks later.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing and um, opening up about that. Like you said, it's so jarring when you lose someone that is such a light in your life. But I think it's really powerful to hear how you have alchemized that feeling of loss and grief into openness and inviting people in. And I think that also, if I hope this isn't overstepping at all, but speaks to your work in therapy as well, that that's something that can really shake people. But to be able to take those experiences and generate connection and community instead of isolation, I think is a beautiful, beautiful gift. And someone should know is a beautiful gift too for people who are walking this journey and ready to radically love themselves. Um, I know you mentioned at the very top of the podcast that you have a few nuggets of advice for people, but now as someone who is such an advocate for mental health, in addition to listening to the podcast, what are some of your favorite practical tools and tips that like if someone's listening to this and they're like, I'm ready to start, but like I don't know where to start.
Mhm.
What would you say?
Yeah, love that. First and foremost, my advice would be go find somebody that you can talk to. That's always going to be my first piece of advice is go talk to somebody, get into the weeds with them about it. Again, let them sit in mud with you. I know that's kind of the thesis of our our
I
call, it
love it.
seems, of
I
like
love
let
it.
them sit in mud with you, but it's so true. I love it. Yeah, and so that would be my first piece of advice is go find somebody to help you. My second piece of advice would be what are small actionable items that you can do right now every day this week that will move the needle for you, that will help start the engine just a little. Again, it doesn't have to be life changing. It doesn't have to, you know, give, you know, water to, third world. It just has to be you, right? It just has to be something small. We're not asking for you to change the world. We're just asking you to change tomorrow. And so for me, what that was when I was a teenager, taking it back, and I first started going to therapy and she said, we're going to start right now working on things that are going to make us feel good. And at the time, my kind of uniform at school was yoga pants, a t-shirt, and a messy bun because I just did not have the energy or the, care to do anything other than that. You guys are lucky I'm here at all, let alone what I'm wearing. And so the very first step that I took was I started picking out my clothes. Small, it didn't change the world by any stretch of the imagination, but there is something to be said about when you look good, you feel good. And when I
Mhm.
started just putting the smallest bit of effort into how I presented myself to the world every day, it started to shift my focus of how I was presenting myself to me and how I felt about my own self walking out the door every day. So that would be my second piece of advice is what are small, tangible actions that you can do right now to start moving you in a different direction. Maybe that's doing a workout twice this week. You don't even have to go on a run every day. Nobody's asking for you to be a hero. Just do yoga 2 times this week. Make that commitment to yourself of I'm going to move my body because I am blessed to have a body that is physically able to move like this. picking out your clothes, packing a healthy lunch so you don't go all day without eating, taking a walking break on your lunch break at work, going outside and getting some sun for a minute and not being in front of your screen for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. There are small, seemingly insignificant things that make a huge difference to how you feel about yourself every day.
I completely agree. And I think it is those small steps, those small actions that do lead up to big change. And I love what you said about we're not trying to change the world here. And I think when people think about like, oh my gosh, this is really daunting. I especially with like I have big dreams, I have big passion, like I want to change the world. I want to do these things. Changing the world, it's like how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? In order to change the world,
Uh,
you have to first
Right.
change your world. And I love your example of just
That's right.
instead of yoga pants, like some jeans. You know, it's as small and simple as it seems, it can be a paradigm shift, which I think is so beautiful. Um,
Absolutely.
Before we head
Absolutely.
into closing questions, of course, the name of the podcast is Making Meaning. What does it feel like makes your life meaningful? In this world where so many people with so many different ideologies and things that we could do, right? Why do you choose what you're doing and what makes that meaningful to you? What in this world that can sometimes seem meaningless, how have you chosen to make it meaningful and why this path for meaning and why it not checks that box, but why it ignites purpose in you?
Yeah. Oh, I love this. Um, I saw a quote recently that said, I'll have to find the exact phrasing of it, but it said something like your purpose in life is to figure out your purpose in life and then to give it away or something like that. And I'll
Mm,
have to find the exact quote and send it to you. But I think that that is what's really meaningful about the work that I've chosen to do is um, it's about connection. It's about sharing and about giving away these resources that we've learned. It's about helping somebody to the next rung of their ladder, um, because it takes nothing away from me and my ladder to help you climb yours. And I think we are so stuck in this "what about me"ism. Everybody's "what about me? What about me?" W- We need to be better about wanting to share experiences and about wanting to help our neighbor. And I really think that that's what's so meaningful about the work that I've chosen to do is it really came from the desire to connect and to help other people see that you are not alone in this. You are in a great way not special in your pain, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
whatever your pain is, somebody else has experienced that. And that's a really beautiful thing. And I think that's what is so meaningful about the podcast and about this journey is it's really about the human experience and about helping one person to the next get to that next level of their life.
yeah. And really feel the depth and expanse of all that the human experience has to offer. Like how
Yeah.
much there is that we can do in this life and be excited about doing it all.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that.
And life is a crazy long journey and there are times where you're on top of the world and there are times where you are buried under it and it's just so important for people to remember that like your life is worth living.
Mhm.
You are worth staying for and I want more people to know that whatever it is, down under or up in the sky, wherever you are, there are people that are here for you, and there are
Mm-hmm.
resources available to you. And there are people who genuinely want to see you to the next phase of your life. I just
Yeah.
need you to also want to see the next stage of your life.
Yeah. I love that. Um, well, for everyone listening, of course, all of Lydia's information will be in the description box down below, wherever you may be listening or watching, so that you can, as you should, check out Someone Should Know and dive into Lydia's work. It's really beautiful and really meaningful. So, of course, I highly suggest it. And as we take a turn into this last little bit of our time together today, one, is there anything else that you would like to plug or share with the audience? And in light of our conversation, in light of everything we touched on, is there anything we missed? Anything you want to return to? Anything you want to highlight, underline, clarify, or something we haven't touched on yet that you would be remiss if we didn't get to?
No, I think that we've really hit a lot of the high points, and just yeah, that's I guess my biggest takeaway for everyone is that, you matter, your life matters, your journey matters, and you're not alone in it. So seek resources, making meaning, someone should know, Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty, there are so many resources out there. So that's my biggest takeaway is I hope that you find that love in yourself that makes you want to stay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, my very last question to hopefully put some sort of bow or button on this very
Yes.
expansive conversation we've had
I love it.
is, what is one word to describe how you're feeling right now?
Oh gosh, I am feeling that's such a good one. Let me think on it. I want a good word. Gosh, there's so many that's coming to my mind. I feel like Webster right now. I'm like, all
Going
the
through the
different
Rolodex.
all the
Yeah,
different words that I can think. I think that the word that I'm feeling right now is proud. I'm really proud of
yeah.
myself and of us and of the space that we created today, the work that you and I are both doing individually, and to be able to find somebody that, really appreciates the work that you're doing and isn't intimidated by that or threatened by it and only wants to share it. And so I think I'm just really proud of the conversation that we've had today and the work that you and I are putting out there. And I just hope that it helps, and I hope that it does change people's lives. And that's what I've always said is I don't need a million downloads. I don't need to be the next Call Her Daddy. I just want at least one person to say that changed my life.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the word proud. I think that's also something that, like, it's hard to admit when you're proud of yourself, and
It
it's like,
is.
"No, I'm excited about this
Yeah.
thing," and I do
We
think
did
you
that.
should. Yeah, and you should be very proud of Someone Should Know, but also
Thank
I
you.
concur and I second that I'm proud of the space that we've cultivated today, and I do believe that it does help and it does move the needle, and I can't wait for even more than one person to say that Someone Should Know changed their life, and see
Aw.
where this journey and new friendship takes both of us. So,
Yes, yes.
Lydia, thank
Thank you.
you so very much for being here today, for sharing your story, your time, your energy with me. I truly cannot thank you enough.
Reese, thank you so much. This was so beautiful. I loved every second of our conversation, and let's do it again.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so very much for being here. And of course, a huge, huge thank you to Lydia for her time and energy in this conversation, but also her vulnerability and openness. Lydia always says she's an open book whenever we chat, and she might have even said it in the episode, but I am just always so. I'm like, what's even the right word to quantify the level of, like, impressedness that I have for people who are so willing to go there so quickly and do so articulately. I feel like when I'm asked deep questions and sometimes caught off guard about it, I don't handle them with as much grace or eloquence as I may want to in a situation where I'm talking about very serious things like we are wont to do in this podcast. So I just really respect and admire guests like Lydia, who are so open and willing and ready to divulge in a really beautiful way the hard-earned knowledge that comes with living this life. So thank you to Lydia for being here, sharing this space, and sharing her wisdom. If you enjoyed this episode, again, please consider giving us a like, a comment, a rating, a review, subscribing wherever you are listening or watching. You can also follow the Cohere Collective wherever you have social media at the Cohere Collective, and you'll get more than just podcast stuff. I talk a little bit more about my own journey with coherence and what I work on in therapy and how it's impacting my life and what it's like to be a life coach and all sorts of other stuff beyond just interviews. So if you want to know more, if you want to learn more about the collective and what coherence as a principle is, definitely head on over to social media and check it out. Again, I highly recommend you checking out Lydia's podcast, Someone Should Know, especially if you resonated with the mental health portion of our conversation today. Lydia is such a wealth of knowledge and she speaks truly from a depth of experience. So I just cannot recommend her podcast enough. And even if this isn't a topic that you're particularly interested in, just sitting in her energy is so healing. And I know for me as a listener, even if it's a topic at the top of the episode that I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be my fave, by the end of it, I've learned something new and I just feel lighter and also more full because Lydia's energy does that for me. And I know it can do that for you too. So again, links will be down below to go support Lydia and the Someone Should Know podcast. You can also learn even more about the Cohere Collective by heading to our website, www.thecoherecollective.com. Over there, you'll have a wealth of information about what coherence is, the coherence matrix, and you can also subscribe to our twist on the weekly newsletter called the Newsletter, where you will get weekly insights for cultivating coherence straight in your inbox. There's all sorts of fun stuff in there. Of course, links to all the podcast episodes, but also journaling exercises and self-reflection prompts, essays that I feel inspired to write about current events or old events or different books that I'm reading or philosophy articles that I studied in school or anything like that that strikes me as coherent that week. I speak about, and you can get it all for free in the newsletter. So head on over to the website, check out all the other stuff that we're doing, and support. Be a part of the collective. A huge thank you to Nicole Ostreicher for making Meaning's art and podcast cover. You can find her on Instagram at Nicole O Creates and Nicole O Design. And a huge thank you to Tristan Morgan for making Meaning's theme music. You can find him on Instagram at Tristan Morgan. All of those links are in the description box down below. Right now, I am feeling hopeful. I feel like I for this last year, I've just been talking about like being in transition and the precipice of transition and influx and cycles opening and closing and beginning and ending. And we're in a 9-year, y'all, and we're coming up on the end of it. And we're going to start a brand new year, a 1 year that is truly the beginning of something fresh and new. And of course, this time of year brings up a lot of stuff when it comes to seeing family and sitting around the holiday dinner tables and going back to your hometown if you don't live there anymore. And lots of thoughts and feelings come up. But I think these milestone moments bring up all of those thoughts and feelings because it's a benchmark, right? For us to compare where we are now to where we used to be this time last year, and that exists throughout your entire life. You always have the benchmark of the holidays. You always have the benchmark of the new year, of this time of year. And even though I may not be exactly where I want to be in my path, in my life right now, I'm feeling really hopeful about all the work that I'm doing to cultivate a path that I'm excited to be walking. And that's kind of the point, right? That's the making part of the making meaning. It's not something that is stagnant. It's not something like we talk about with purpose that is a box to be checked. If it was, it'd be overwhelmingly boring and fruitless and, quite frankly, dumb. Who wants to live a life like that? So I just want to encourage you, if this time of year poses any sort of difficulties or challenges, or you're reflecting and similarly to me feeling like you're not exactly where you want to be, just know that there is no such thing as being too early. There is no such thing as being too late. There is no such thing as being in the wrong place. You are always exactly where your feet are planted in this ground on the path that you are meant to be walking. And I think it's an F. Scott Fitzgerald quote, which perhaps was also plagiarized from his wife Zelda, but I believe it's attributed to F. Scott Fitzgerald. And it says, "I hope you have the courage to live the life of your dreams. And if one day you find that you are not, I hope you have the courage to begin again." Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but that's coming up for me in this moment, that yeah, the path isn't just going to happen naturally. You're not just going to fall into a path of purpose, because it is one that takes intention and thought and effort and cultivating. This was actually something Lydia and I were talking about when we got lunch this last week, and she said, you pray for the bus to come, but you still run as fast as you can to catch it. And it's both of those things, right? That's the true co-creation with the universe. That, yes, I trust that the universe is going to get the bus to me right on time when it is supposed to. That doesn't mean I'm gonna ignore my alarm and not prep my bag the night before and not be prepared because the universe has got it. It's like, no, I'm still going to put in the work and the effort to honor what the universe is doing for me too, and meeting the world where it's at and meeting yourself where you're at. So life is long and also short, and we are infinitely small and infinitely large, and I just have all of the hope in the world for the path that I'm walking, because I know it's alongside you. And I have so much hope for your path, for our path as a society. I know that times are bleak right now, laughing because I'll cry otherwise. But it is in moments like this that I am just reminded of how magical the human being is, and how powerful we are when we decide we want something to change. Thank you so very much for being here. And as always, I hope you feel like you are living more coherently. Until next time, love.